Yo, this is BRG, and you're listening to the Three Count Podcast.
Weighing in at an unbelievable weight that you might hate, but you can't even
Dang, how
debate.
fast we find that drag ball at?
Well, now by now, you already know what this is. This is the Three Count Podcast, now entering 201, and I'm your host, Clipper, Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, which by now you guys should do just like the Tribal Chief and acknowledge me, you got to have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring today? You can find this man at NEW. You can find this man in pretty much everywhere up and down the East Coast. AEW, you can find them at WWE. You can find them, just if there's a promotion out there besides Limitless and Beyond, this man is there on it. So if you guys give it up for the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the victorious one, BRG.
I hear the applause. I hear them. I hear it all. It's going crazy. The crowd goes mild because they're like, half of them are like, who?
Hey, but you know what? The people that are in Connecticut, the people in Rhode Island, the people in Maine, the people in Massachusetts, they're all like BRG, BRG, or they might be like, we hate you. Yo, it is okay. So let's hop like into it. So it's been a while since you and I like really got a chance to like sit down and like chat it up, right? Because we had you on 2 years ago, like when we first started the show. We brought you back, with our debate show, and then we ran into each other for the first time at the wrestling open.
I was like, holy shit! Like, I was just thinking about it before we got on, and I was like, it's been 2 years since I like came on the first time, and I was like, holy crap! Like the world was completely shut down then. Like there was no wrestling going on. I'm like, wow. Like I'm like, what am I gonna talk about? And then I realized, holy shit, there's like a lot that's happened since I last came on the show. It just feels like it was yesterday, though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, and the crazy part too is we talked about that a little bit when we were at the wrestling open, and I was talking about like, hey, we should bring you back on the show, we should talk and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, dude, like a lot has happened, and I was like, I know. It's like because like you keep tabs on like the people that you like become friends with, right, and the people that you kind of have like these relationships with, and maybe not everybody will be your friend, and not everybody's gonna be like the relationship like like you and I like we have like we have our acquaintanceship, but then we also like we chatted up on the side. But the crazy thing is you never really, I don't know, it's weird, but then like you kind of keep tabs on people and you watch them like grow and stuff, and you watch them go everywhere, and you're like, holy shit, like look how great they're doing.
Yeah, I know. Dude, it's tough to believe that it's already like 2 years since like all this COVID stuff happened. Like I remember like the other day, I think was like the first time I played poker, like like a really good in-depth game since like COVID. And COVID during that whole quarantine period, I played poker every single night. It was to the point where I'm like, holy crap, like I gotta remember like what's actually like how to play this, or like how to like call out people's bluffs and stuff like that. Because I felt rusty when I played the other night, and I was like, Jesus, it feels like it was just yesterday that I was doing this every single day and stealing all my friends' money.
It is weird to like relearn things that you were doing like every day. Like I know for me, like it's I guess I feel like not too much changed in my life because like outside of like the outside of like quarantine, right? Like
Mhm.
I was still like doing stuff for the podcast. Like I was still like exercising in my house, and I was still kind of like making sure that my daughter was going to school and stuff like that. So things kind of like didn't really change a lot. And then when everything opened, I was like, all right, well now I've just changed my training from like on YouTube to like in a ring and then into the gym. And it's like, but it was weird too, like getting back in the gym for the first time. Like I remember like the first day I got in the gym and was like lifting. I was like, I don't want to go lift. And I like walked out, like I walked in and then I just walked out and I was like, yeah, I'm not set for this. And I drove, I remember driving home and I only lived like 3 minutes from the gym, but I was like, nah, you know what? We need to go do this. So I drove back and then I was like, just around people, but I was like paranoid. And I was like, yo, don't like stay over there. Let me go lift. And then once I got back in the ring and started working, I was like, all right, bet. Like now we're here. We're starting to get things going again.
It was just weird, just in general, getting back into a ring and everything. Like I remember, I took like for me it was 6 months that I didn't wrestle, And I remember the first time we did something, it was Northeast Wrestling was doing like a campground show, and I was like, oh, sick! Like I get to like wrestle again. But at the same time, I was like, this is the longest break I've ever taken away from wrestling. I don't know how my cardio is gonna be. I don't know how anything's gonna be. Like I don't know. And people are like who watch this, I don't know like what it's like to be in the ring. They're like, oh well, that just means like like he's not doing cardio at the gym. He's not running. He's not doing anything like that. It's like no, 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 no. The thing with wrestling is that no matter what, your um your cardio is like based off of what you do in the ring, and like your cardio, no matter how much cardio you do, there are days where you're going to be completely winded for no reason. I remember I was talking with Bobby Orlando the other day about just like how it is so much easier to space out like a longer match than it is a shorter match, because in shorter matches you feel like you have to go 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 and you don't have like a second to breathe, so
Yep.
sometimes you like suck in too much wind and the next thing you're like just coming back through the back after like 5 minutes and you're like, holy crap, that was like a sprint. But then like there's other days you can do like 20-minute matches and like you're like, I feel great, this is awesome. It's such a weird thing with wrestling. Like you have to like your cardio only improves like the more matches you do. And
Yeah,
that
so
was
that's
the one
definitely
thing
a
I
no
was
for people.
worried.
That's
What's
definitely a no for people like that pay attention to the podcast. Like if you don't know, cardio is everything, but in-ring cardio is like the most important thing because you do find a lot of people who like gas out when they come out for their entrance, let
mm,
alone the match. And I've
well
seen it happen numerous times now. Like since I like started working and like traveling around and going up and down, like I've watched that happen to a lot of wrestlers and a lot of people who you would think would be like, hey, that person looks like they're in great shape. They should be able to hang. And they're like
yeah,
3 minutes
dead.
in, not even to the match. They just came out for their entrance. They said, what's up to the crowd. They get in the ring and then they do like
They're
one circle
gassed.
and you can see it. They're like,
Dude, so it's like I don't know if you know this or who anybody else knows who knows this, but it's like you look back at like that match between Bam Bam Bigelow and Lawrence Taylor, like the man was gassed
yep.
at the end. Lawrence Taylor was like he's a professional athlete, like he literally works out for a living, and he even was like gassed after his like one match. It just goes to show like the toll that this stuff can take on you. It's wild.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. But moving kind of forward ahead and like kind of like talking about it, like you've had like a lot of things happen, man. Like just a lot of shit going down, and like it's something that I kind of want to tap into because it's one thing I love about this show is that like I like to go around and ask people who've been in the sport and in the business a little bit longer than I have, and just ask them for advice and stuff like that. And I've watched you kind of just travel and get to work a bunch of people, and I'm like, damn, look at BRG like doing this thing. So now we have you back on the show, like, yo, man, like one, how's it feel to be working like all these larger names? And then two, you know, we got to chop it up at the Wrestling Open, and you're right, because the one thing I do want to talk about too is that it was a 5 minute match, and I wasn't gassed. I was definitely excited that I got to work, but I feel like a lot of people would have just like thrown caution to the wind and done everything they could in 5 minutes and like not really told a good story and probably would have blown themselves up. But
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk
So,
about first like that you kind of blowing up, and then we can kind of talk about like the Wrestling Open stuff.
yeah, I mean, it's a thing. This past couple years have been awesome, especially 2022. Like this year, I really got like a good like motivator. I felt a lot better about myself as a wrestler after I wrestled Juice Robinson. Like that was probably like my favorite match I've ever done. I I like to stay humble. I like to, despite what people think about me, I like to stay humble and I like to always say like I can always get better. And that match, I remember being so excited for it, but also like deathly afraid of it because I'm like I want to show that I'm good. Like I want to show that I am like a credible wrestler. And at that point, especially in Northeast wrestling, like a lot of people hadn't really seen that side of me. They've never like really they've seen me get beat up by legends and they've seen me get beat up by a lot of the local guys that are beloved there, but they hadn't really seen me like go with somebody like on the caliber of Juice Robinson. So that match was a real like shift for me to show that like okay, yeah, like I am very entertaining, very charismatic and stuff like that, but I can still wrestle and I can still work. And even Juice told me, he's like, great job. He just told me you did great, like you're awesome. Um and he put me over to Michael Lombardi, who's the owner of the company, and he literally said like he did great, he was awesome. And that's not like something that like I tend to like not go into like details like that, but like that's like one of those things where I look at it as a very pivotal point for me. And for that match and for that outcome to happen, regardless win or lose, it was just a very good feeling, and it gave me a lot more confidence going into a lot of the other matches that I did this year. Like with Caster, I worked Max Caster, I want to say back in June, May, along those lines. And I remember just thinking to myself, like along the same lines, like, okay, like I want to show that I am a good wrestler. And at that point, I had just started doing stuff with like a hobby horse and a goddamn cowboy hat. So like there's people that don't take me seriously. So I had to like again do another one of those situations where I have to show people like, okay, yes, I'm entertaining, yes, I'm charismatic, but at the same time I can also wrestle. And I feel like that's always been like a story with my career, no matter like where I go. It seems to always start off with me showing that I can be very entertaining, charismatic, and then over time, people start to see like, okay, this guy can actually wrestle.
Yeah, that
And
match is in particular, I want to dive into that, right? So the Max Caster match that you had, I watched
uh-huh,
that match and I've watched it probably like 3 or 4 times, man. And I truly enjoy like watching you because, like you said, you are very entertaining, you are very charismatic.
mhm,
But what I love was the story behind it, where you were like, I all I gotta do is waste 10 minutes and I can get
yeah,
this briefcase, and that's all I'm gonna do.
mm,
And like there are points where like Max would want to tie up, and you're out, and you're out in the ring,
yeah,
you're fast to the crowd, and you could see like the crowd was trying to vibe, but it was like the moment the first strike happened and you took the first bump, and all of a sudden it was like, all
mm,
right, now I'm getting in, I'm like selling, but also I'm like here I am working Max Caster, like yeah, I could definitely see like the two levels from when I first remember meeting you back in like 2020 to now, and I was like, dude, like you've come like light years, right? So it's obvious that that match with Juice Robinson was definitely like the kicker for you because you're like, all right, I kind of believe more in myself and who I am, and I definitely want to get more out of this than what I've been getting.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's a lot of the time, it's like it's a chip on my shoulder. Like I wasn't ever told that I could do this. I was never told like you are made for this business. You are blah 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 blah. Like when I first started, like people like looked down upon me, and that's just always kind of been the chip on my shoulder for like years now. And so like don't get me wrong, like there's still some growing pains you have to go to through because when I started, I was still I'm a kid now, but I was even more of a kid back then. And like, maturity mistakes, like all those things that you make when you're young, they happened to me while I was in wrestling. So I had to learn from those mistakes and just continue to grow from that. But at the same time, it was like a lot of people didn't take me seriously. A lot of people didn't think that I was going to get as far as I have gotten right now. Do I take as all my success that I've had this year? Do I take that as like, okay, what if like it ended tomorrow, I can be at least satisfied. I'll be at least happy with what I accomplished. But the thing is I want more. Like no matter what, I'm not satisfied with what I have because I always want more because I always believe that the more you want something, the more likely it is gonna eventually happen to you. And that's just been my thinking on it from the start. Okay, I've gotten to this point. Like, what can I do next? What can I do to get better? Should I be going to the gym more? Yes. Okay, let's start going to the gym more. Should I be eating healthy more? Yes, I need to do that. What I'm always looking at, what can I do to keep progressing and keep moving forward? Because I don't see like a finish line. I just keep seeing what's the next step. It's like adding a chapter after another chapter until like the book is like 10 feet tall. You just keep adding chapters to it until the book is literally like there's nothing more you can write in it.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that like you and I kind of like we have like this thing in common where we're just not and by all means like we definitely want to keep ourselves like to the grindstone and keep pushing. And it's not like we want to we know that we're like getting better and getting stronger at whatever it is that we're doing. But the one thing I definitely like is like when you look at your game, you're like, do I have holes in my game? And if I do, how do I sew those holes up, right?
Yeah.
And you work on them constantly. And it's one of those things that like it's that humble uh what's sort of the way I'm looking at it. It's like this mentality that you have,
Modesty.
mentality where you're like, all right, there's that missing, so I need to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing for me is like one of my like not pet peeves, but one thing that like sometimes I get frustrated by, really depending on the day, um, is when I like ask somebody like, "What did you think?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, it was good." I was like, I appreciate that, I really do. Like seriously, when people say like good things, I'm like, awesome. But I always feel like I need there's something there,
Yep.
like that I wish you did see so that I can at least work on it because I don't. Nobody bats 1,000. Not even the best people that have ever gone through this industry. So, like, what can I do better? Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, like I appreciate all the sentimental, like telling me that that it was a good match and it was good, whatever. But at the same time, it's like I don't feel like you're helping me by just telling me that. I want you to tell me what I need to do better. And that's something that I always try to do with other people. And sometimes I can be afraid to hurt feelings, but other times I'm just like blunt and to the point because like we're not gonna get better if we just tell people, "Oh yeah, like it was good, like good job." Like no, there's things we can all improve on. And if we're just telling people, "Yeah, no, you're doing great," then it's not really helping anybody.
No, you definitely have a point there, and it's one of those things that like I hear that a lot from a lot of other veterans because like the one thing I do ask is I always ask for criticism, and
Hmm.
one of my favorite people, O'Shea Edwards, like I will send him a match and be like, dude, make me hate this match because it's something that
Hmm.
he does, and we're talking about a guy that's been on ROH, who's looking to keep progressing and
Hmm.
keep getting better. He's gone international, you know, like he
Hmm.
works everywhere, and he tells his friends like, hey, make me hate this match. And then they send him back his match, and then he's just like, this match sucked, even though it's one of his favorite matches. And so, like,
Hmm.
I like that same thing where I'm like, yo, I'm open to criticism because at the end of the day, the one thing that you're going to do is you're going to help me get better. And you can nitpick the shit out of it. And like
Yeah.
we talked at the Wrestling Open, that was the first thing I asked you. I was like, how was the match? And you were like, it's okay. I was like, bet. What can I do to work on? And we talked about it. And
Hmm.
it's like, it's one of those things that, and it, I wasn't afraid that you were going to hurt my feelings because at the end of the day, I was like, this is a person who cares a lot, who will definitely look to help, like give advice, and he understands that I'm asking for that help. So at the end of it, I was
Yeah.
like, there's nothing wrong with it. And I just think it's funny how
No,
people will get in their feelings and be like, "Meh,
because
that's this,
sometimes, well, the thing is, sometimes people like they don't go asking for thoughts for the right reasons. They go looking for like they're trying to fish for compliments. It's another form of just fishing for compliments.
yeah.
Like if that's what you're looking for, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong business because if there's so many people that are gonna just like BS you and tell you like, oh yeah, you're great. It's like okay, like I get like the intimidation factor of it, but at the same time, Jesus, I just had something else go in my head.
Oh.
On my headphones. I think it was my fantasy football draft that I told you I was gonna be doing.
Well, it's 7:30, so I mean, you know, right now, like,
Oh yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
you get
Going
that
through the
ESPN
NFL
ringtone,
logo.
dum 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 dum.
Yes, that's exactly what I got. So this may be going off in my ears multiple times, but so sorry, what was I saying beforehand?
We were
I
talking
didn't
about
catch a bit.
people fishing for compliments.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like I don't get it personally. Yeah, it can be like, what are you doing to help yourself if that's what you're looking for? But it's wrestling. There's a lot of egos. No matter what, you're gonna like hurt somebody's feelings, no matter what.
It's one of
So,
those things though that I think that people need to understand. Like if you're asking another wrestler for how you did in your match, understand
mhm,
that you're gonna get your feelings hurt because they're just looking to care and like help you. Some people out there just be a dick, and that does happen, right? But if
Mhm.
you're fishing for compliments, go talk to the fans. They will give you that ego boost that you're looking for. But don't go to another wrestler and expect them to be like, oh yeah, you were perfect. Because one thing that
Mhm.
got told to me, and I've taken this to heart, was if someone tells you to keep doing what you're doing, take that as an insult because that means they want you to maintain. He's like, but the caveat to it was, he goes, I'm telling it to you because you're still new to the business. But if you get into the business for like 6, 7 years and someone says, keep doing what you're doing, it's like, that's an insult. Like, you want them to tell you what you're doing wrong so that you can get better. And I
Yeah,
was like, damn, that's crazy.
that's the thing. So like me and Channing Thomas like hold each other accountable all the time. I remember today he sent something to one of our group chats and he asked me like privately, like, what did you think? And I just told him like exactly what I thought of it completely. And it's nothing like that's the thing, is like there are days like me and him, we get into butting matches and stuff, but at the same time, it's we know we're doing it for the right reasons. We're telling each other why this is wrong, what you need to do, what to improve on. We know that we're doing it to help one another, not to like demean each other and tell each other that it's like that we're the shits.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between showing that you're caring versus like just being a complete douchebag about it. Like,
Yeah,
and obviously, because like you and Channing had that relationship, me and Chaz had that relationship where I could send him a match and he'll be like, "Hey man, these are the things you need to work on," and then he'll send me a match and I'll look at it and I'll dissect it down too. And we even like we timestamp it. We'll be like, "Oh, at 0:16, at 16 seconds into the match,
yeah,
did this. I would have I would have liked it if you would have done this instead of doing that, right?" And it's the aspect of like, hey man, like, because they give it for his character, right? His character is like he's the street fighter, right? He's just a brawler, and
yep,
like he'll tie up and he'll do like all these cool wrestling moves. I was like, dude, but the way you put your character out there, like that's not something that you should be doing. But what you should be doing, and I'll tell him like I would be dirtying the water up because he's always booked as a heel. I was like, I'll dirty the water up. Someone ties up with you, gets you in a red slot, bam, hit him once in the face, right? It just establishes that, hey, I don't want to wrestle, I just want to fight. And he was just like, I like that. And I was like, and as time progresses, yeah, there's certain moves as you get more familiar with certain places, like they're going to see you wrestle and they're going to know that you can wrestle instead of just be the street brawler. And he was
yeah.
like, oh, I like this concept. So I kind of understand like where you guys come to and you hold each other accountable because like, me and the boys of pure ignorance, we have the same thing going on.
Well, you also have to look at it as it's a flavors of ice cream type of thing. Like some people like chocolate, some people like vanilla, but it's all ice cream.
Right.
I remember, like, I love the fact that you mentioned timestamps because that's exactly what Ryan Waters did to me when we first met. So I was like training at Taven School, and for those who don't know, Ryan Waters is one of Taven and Bennett's like original trainers. So he knows what he's doing, and so he has a very different mindset from Taven, which I find funny. But at the root of it all, it's like it's still all ice cream. Um, because like Taven personally likes characters a little bit more. Ryan likes like the wrestling aspect, like the very nitty gritty, like old fashioned wrestling type of style. So neither one of them are wrong when they give out critiques. They just give out different critiques for different things based on their flavor of ice cream. And you have to look at it like that. Like I remember Ryan just going ham on one of the matches that I sent to him when we first met. He gave like timestamp, 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 and it's not like, and a lot of it was nitpicky, but it was also something I needed to hear because at that point I was starting to get a little stagnant, and nobody was really telling me like what I needed to do in order to keep improving at that point. So I mean, it's stuff like that that I hate in the moment. There are points where I hate criticism in the moment, but at the same time, like afterwards, I'm like, he's right. They're right. Be- And it sucks sometimes to admit you're wrong, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you need to hear it. You need to hear it in order to get better. The
So
whole
sorry, man. Sorry. But kind of jumping into a point that you made, right? I'm kind of curious as this aspect. So let's say you get some kid, right, that's been in the business for just over 2 years, right? And he
hmm
comes to you and he's like, hey, man, uh, what are your expectations of that person if they come to you and tell you like, hey, I've been like 2 years in the business. What is your
Hmm.
expectations of that person already?
I just I expect them to be able, like, willing to learn. That's the main thing, and not have an ego. There's a couple people that I know that have complete egos, and they think that they are a lot higher than they really are. I don't understand the mentality of it because they look like it makes them look bad in other people's eyes. If you're 2 years in and you haven't scratched the WWE, don't have an ego because it's all independent wrestling and people are interchangeable all the time. Um, if you come in, you're willing to put together a fairly basic match and you're willing to learn and listen to all the criticism, that's really all you can ask of a lot of these people. I know Top Rope right now has a couple of students that are just starting to get out there, and Ryan instills on them to be humble, don't act like a bully, don't act egotistical, just represent the school in the best way. You have to look at it like there are a lot of schools around here, like New England Pro Wrestling Academy, the Lockup. For a while, Taven School was up here, the Wrestling Kingdom. The students that come from there, they have to realize that they're not only representing themselves, they're representing their school. And if they have a bad attitude, then that means that that person could possibly be showing that their school preaches stuff to make them have that bad attitude. Um, Sometimes people have to just leave their ego at the door and remember that this, at the end of the day, like, you're interchangeable. You're not like the second coming of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great advice, and that's something like I took into account like everywhere I go, right? And it's something that I kind of learned from the military as well as learning from like just life in general, like when I was in college wrestling and stuff. And I guess when I showed up to like the wrestling open, I remember I was just like, "Hey, yo, just shut up, eyes open, ears
Hmm.
open, and just do your best to just be like I don't know how to say, just do your best to be like friendly and just be communicative and then just talk to people and just understand like everybody's gonna have like their own thing, but don't like put out, oh yeah, I'm the king or I'm the shit." And I remember like
Yeah.
right before like we even did the 5 minute matches, right? Like Evander James, God bless him because he is amazing. And then Diego and I, we were all like in the ring and we were all just rolling and just working on
Hmm.
stuff. And it was so crazy because like Evander was asking if I could do certain things, and I was like, I don't know, I've never tried that before. He's like, well, I don't want you to try it now because we're here in front of the promoter, and I don't want you to look bad in front of the promoter. And I thought that was a great thing that he said. But I was like,
Hmm.
no, 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 let me go ahead and try. And so we were working on different things, and then they were showing me different things to work on too. And I was like, bro, like I appreciate this so much more than what you know. I was like, I understand that the promoter's right there, and he's looking at me, and if I look bad, I look bad. But I just want to say thank you because like at the end of the day I can come back in a few months and because of the things that I was learning with you I'll be able to apply that and get
Yeah.
better. So I was never I guess when I sat back and I just listened and I was just trying to understand and interpret everything that was going on, it was crazy because I was like I really appreciate like this quick lesson that I was just getting and I was like damn I love this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is like there's nothing wrong with saying no. I remember a couple months ago, I wrestled Casey Navarro for the first time, and he mentioned something to me. He mentioned one move or whatever. I was like, I'll be honest, I don't I don't post much for people. Like, I don't like pick a lot of people up. That's just like, if we haven't practiced it, this is your first match here. I don't want to say, yeah, let's do a move and then have it look like shit and then make you look like shit in the process, especially when this is your first impression to a lot of people. And that's like just my mentality with everything at this point. It's like there's people there's a lot of people that are selfish and just care about like what they look like. I care about like the max and how my opponent looks, because if I make my opponent look good, that makes my opponent happy, and that's really something that I care about. um I don't want people looking like shit out there. That's like my main thing.
No, and that's massive though, man. It's just like that's the one thing I like about you too is that you're always like you're so willing to like give and let people understand like, hey man, like these are this is everything that's going on. I want to have a great match with you. I don't want you to look like shit. And the other part too, like you just said, like you knew kind of like your limitations, and you kind of like let people know, like, hey, this is something that's gonna work out. Like
Yeah.
I learned that lesson the hard way. I ain't gonna front because at the open in the practice match, a move that I was like not too familiar with taking, like I took for the second time actually because I took it earlier in the day in practice, and it went fairly well. And the second time, not so much. But I was glad that the person I was working with, Evander, man, like he's such a professional. Like he took care of me, and I did my best to like, make sure I was landing on my back. But it was a lot of people came up to me. They're like, "Dude, are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm great." Like it just, it didn't even suck as a bump. It just was something that it just looked
It
really fun.
looked ugly.
It
Yeah, I got
did.
I mean, that's just gonna happen. Like the thing is, like you at least practiced it, and
And
like
something you came to
you
me
felt confident
afterwards.
enough, and you felt confident enough to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Right.
sometimes you just gotta bite that bullet. Like there's things like that that just happen. There's really
And one thing
nothing
you
you
did
can
tell me
change.
too, right after you said it too, you're like, "It's okay to say no," and I was like, "Yeah, I know." And I guess like I don't want to say it was a kind of an ego thing too. Like I didn't want to say no because I was like, it worked out the first time. I was like, it'll work out
Mhm.
the second time, and it did to a point.
Well, so it's like with stuff, with like the saying no thing. There's just I just put it into like my perspective on things. Like I don't try to be like a dick about it, but there's just some things like there was one time I was working one match and I remember something got called to me and I just said straight up, I'm like, I don't like that. I don't want to do that. And they gave their reasoning to why, and I was just like, I understand your reasoning behind it. I'm personally not a fan of it. It's not my style of wrestling, and I don't want to do it. That's just my and I'm not trying to be a dick, but I don't want to do it. I don't personally like it. And at first they were not a big fan of that, but then everything kind of smoothed over and it wasn't really like a big that much of a big deal, but it's like you're gonna have to bite that bullet sometimes and just like have to be mean because at the end of the day, like they have to understand too that there is a certain way that you want to be perceived. And if you're out there doing something that's not really you and something that you don't really want to do, then they have to understand that it's also like it's a give and take type of thing. Like, yeah, you can like this guy's gonna do all my stuff. The least I can do is at least not get mad at him for not wanting to do one of these things.
Yeah. No, it's definitely important. And like you said, this is a whole give and take kind of place. And so I guess I don't know, it was so crazy because like that day at the open, like I I don't want to say I did badly, right? I definitely felt like I felt like I did a lot of like basics were there, but everything else like was just kind of lacking. I think it was one of the things I was just thrown off because like it was my first time being there, and there's everybody around the ring. That's not something like I was really like used to, and I just
Mhm.
tried my best to kind of like fake it to make it. But it was one of
Yeah.
those. It's intimidating, and I don't. I think a lot of people don't realize that it really like you're in a whole different field, right? So if you don't know
Yeah.
what to expect, you go out there like yeah, you can kind of get crushed a little bit. But I was like, I tried my best, and then even like Tyree came up to me afterwards and was like, dude, like, why'd you freak out? Why'd you freeze? And I was like, at first I tried to play it off as like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, it definitely was a different mentality.
Well, I mean, it happens, especially when you're like still newer. Like it's the thing too. It's like you see people like there was a point where we had like tryout matches like every single week. And like you see, like there are people that are at least coming there and trying, and that's the thing. It's like you went there, you did a tryout match, and you're trying. There's a lot of people that I tell like you guys should be going down, and like you guys should at least getting your face out there, people, so people can see you, and people like, and you can at least meet new people and network with new people and stuff like that. And a lot of people just don't want to go do it because they feel like, oh, I need. Like they'll know who I am. They'll call me, and it's like, no, no, I don't want people to forget this face. So I make sure I show it as much as possible. And it's what's worked for me. And like I've had some small successes because of it. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, I mean,
I
you're
don't know
definitely
how
right.
else to explain it.
Yeah, you got to keep showing up. Like, and I know for me, unfortunately, because I live in Maryland, right? So that's an eight
Yeah.
hour drive down. And we were up there for the week because my wife's family all lives, actually, crazy enough, my wife's family all lives in Worcester, Massachusetts. So,
Mhm.
like, I was there and I was like, I'm going to make this happen. Like,
Yeah.
I remember, like, my daughter was upset that I left because I was like, no, 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 I have to go to this because I have to at least say that I tried to do this. And
Yeah.
fun fact, I'm coming back in December
There you go.
out there to do it again and to
And
try.
and that's literally all you can do. When it comes to like Maryland, shit, what's the one company that I keep thinking, oh, Maryland Championship Wrestling, MCW? That's the
Yeah,
one I keep thinking about. That's the one that I want to go down and do. I just need the time. I just need the schedule to line up. But that's one that I want to go and like at least show my face, and because that place is literally got like the same vibe as Northeast Wrestling from what I've seen online. I haven't experienced anything in person yet. But from what I've seen, it kind of has that same vibe to it. That's another place I want to try and get down to eventually.
yeah. I mean, Becca was just here a little
Oh,
while ago.
really?
She either that or she's. I can't. Okay, so full transparency for anybody who's watching this. We are recording this on September 5th. So it's either, I can't remember if MCW's had their show or they're having their show. But either way, she's on the card. So she
There
will
you go.
be. But no, it's like, it's because the funny thing is going up to the Wrestling Open, I was the first student from my school to go up and go and at least go try, right?
Hmm.
Because I've watched Big Trouble Ben Bishop like go up to Invictus, and he got on the shows, and like he had a lot of fun. Obviously, he's been a part of like the first one, and he's gone up and down the East Coast. And so for me, I was like, I want to do something like that too. So I was like, I'm gonna make these attempts and get up there and do what I got to do and learn. And I think that was the cooler part was afterwards getting to sit with Paul, sit with you.
Hmm.
Who else did I talk to? I talked to a lot of people and I got notes and I just kept writing stuff down. And I was like,
Yeah,
yo,
and
the
that's
most
really
important
good.
thing.
It really is because the thing like you mentioned, like other people that you like look at and you're like, I want to do that, I want to do these things. It's like between me, Channing, Waves and Curls, Brick City Boys, Love Doug, Jay Haru, it's like all of us are like this like big group of people that are all on the same experience level and all work very similar shows. So we're all always on like a very healthy competition of like, okay, like this person's doing this, like I want to do this. Like I saw Waves and Curls are going to Black Label Pro, like okay, I want to go there too. Like what do I have to do? And and it's like at the same time you can't like compare your careers to other people or else it's just gonna look stagnant and everybody has their own journey. But at the same time, it's not a bad thing to like look at your friends and look at people that um you literally like grew up in the business with and say like, okay, like I want to be on the same level. What do I have to do? Where do I have to go? Stuff like that. Always like being around your friends and having your friends keep you in check is like one of the best things that wrestling has done for me. And it's taught me a lot about just like friendship in general and who like your real friends are.
Yeah, so I bounce ideas all the time off of Chaz and Prince and Noah, right? So the boys of pure ignorance. But outside of that, like I also talk with like O'Shea. I talk to him like all the time. So
Hmm.
I'll ask him questions. But he spit this knowledge to me, man, and he did it on the podcast and it blew my mind. And I was like, I don't know why I didn't heard about this before, but he was talking about like in this business, you're gonna have like a lot of acquaintances, but in that a lot of acquaintances, you have people that's on your team. And then from there, oh, he's like acquaintances, then you have a lot of friends, and then you have people on your team and then you'll have your corner. He's like, and not everybody's going to be in your corner. So it's definitely important to like have like that network of guys. And I love the fact that you have kind of like your group of people that you kind of like bounce things off of. Because I know like down here, like in the Maryland side of things, like I have like, Chaz and Prince and Noah. And I also have like Rico Hendricks, who's another good friend of mine. My trainer, Second, who I don't compare myself to him because he's done way more than I have, but I kind of try to shadow whatever he's kind of gone
Hmm.
into. But there's a lot of people that have been working in this a lot longer than I'm looking at, and I'm like, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna wrestle at that place. I'm gonna go to that place, and I just keep picking at it. I'm like, I will figure out ways to get where I need to get to, not really by any means necessary, but I will make the drives if I got to. I'll go where I gotta go. I just think that's the one thing about it is that when you have healthy competition amongst a group of friends, everybody's gonna get better because they have to. Otherwise, they kind of, like you said, they get stagnant, and then you kind of just like cut them and leave them because they got to.
Yeah,
If they're not there to help you get better and you're not there to help them get better, then you're really not doing anything for each other.
yeah, that's the thing too, is like that at the same time, it's like these friends also have to like be honest with you and tell you honestly what they think about certain situations. Because like I've seen it where like friends are just like hype men instead of like critics. And you don't
Yep.
want hype men, you want critics. You want people that are going to help you. You want people that are not going to like BS you and tell you you're doing great. They can give you like words of encouragement and everything, but at the same time, it's like if they're only giving you words of encouragement, then they're not doing the right things.
That is definitely as true as it comes. So it's kind of cool to hear that you have your group of guys that you kind of just like chat with and kind of bounce
Mhm.
ideas off of to learn from. I uh I don't know. It's crazy because like I want to expand my circle out, but I'm also understanding that like the group of guys that I'm with, they don't necessarily. Some of the guys, I don't want to say. Let me put it this way: some of the guys that are on my team, I know that they're not. They're on my team, but they're not really there. So I just kind of keep them like at arm's distance. But I'm
I
also
got
watching their stuff, and I'm like, I definitely see where you're going and how you're doing things. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to like just take a step back away from like everything and just look, and you're just like, damn, dude, like.
And that's the thing too, is like your circle is just naturally gonna expand over time. It just happens. Um, like I remember I just thought of this like the other day. It was like I remember me and Waves and Curls went down to Richfield Park, New Jersey, and we wrestled at this building that like everyone jokes that every wrestling company takes place there. But I remember I walked into that building 2 years ago in 2020 with Channing, and like that was the first time I ever hung out with the Brick City Boys. And I literally told Waves and Girls, I was like, "This is where I met the Brick City Boys, like literally right in this corner over here." And we just watched bad wrestling and laughed for a little bit. And that, like, literally, like we just watched backyard wrestling. Like it was awesome, and like we were having a good time. And it just like we and like it's just grown from there, from them coming and helping out at Northeast Wrestling. And then like we're always just like getting in cars and like driving places together whenever we could. And it's just it naturally happens over time. It just, and then somehow Jay Haru got got in on this too. But it's just like we always it's just gonna come naturally. The more you like look for things, you're not gonna realize they actually already happened.
Yeah,
It's something that I noticed too.
it's cool.
That's a wild thing. It's nice. It's a nice feeling because like especially like on days where you're all just like in the chat and you're all just talking and we're all just like laughing and stuff. It's like one of those good feelings. Like friendship is like one of the best things that wrestling has given me, is that I've made a lot of friends and a lot of good people that like I love to death and I would like take a bullet for any day of the week.
It is cool. It is cool to have like that natural expansion of like your circle. And then it's like, because the one thing I tell people all the time, right, is that the wrestling business is a lot like the military, right? Is that we're all like essentially after this one goal, and that's to pretty much entertain, right? In the military, it's not, right? It's obviously defend the country and, protect freedoms and, all that good stuff. Anyway, but with wrestling, it's all about like entertaining the fans. And so everybody's driven towards this one goal of like entertaining and being the best entertainer that they can be. So when you find people who are just naturally good people and then you want to connect with, you find them all over the place and they bounce the same kind of energy that you bounce out.
Yeah, it's it is. I said it before. It's like wrestling. My wrestling has given me some of the best friends that I could possibly ask for, and I'm glad I have the right friends that tell me like when something works, when something doesn't work. And although there are days where I just like I'll roll my eyes and I'll get pissed, I know they're saying it for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons. reasons.
No, you had all the facts going on. But hey, so we're gonna jump into the third best segment of the Three Count podcast. Now, Jermaine, you're probably wondering what the first two is. Well, we talk about one all the time, the Red Dot Power Rankings. You see it sometimes on our shows because let's be real, man, there's a lot of wrestling out there, and I don't get the chance to put a top 10 together anymore. And the 10 count, the 3 count podcast, 10 count questions, which obviously this isn't that show. So we're gonna talk about our other favorite game, which is pin, submit, and DQ. And BRG, this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 3 wrestlers or 3 whatever, and then you have to pin one, submit one, and DQ one.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
So like DQ means like I could hit him over the head with a chair if I wanted to.
You can do whatever you want. You can just DQ that person, or you can just just count them out, whatever you want to.
I got you.
But,
I got you. Okay.
So let's jump into some familiar names of you that you might know, right? So we're gonna go with Stenson. We're gonna go with Danny Thomas, and then we're gonna go with Chaz Evans. The Dawn.
Okay. So I would definitely DQ myself against Channing. Definitely a steel chair over the head for sure. Steve Stetson pays me a lot of money, so I guess I can pin him, and Chaz, I guess, just has to fall to the fact that he got left out. So he's definitely gonna be the one that gets submitted in this one.
Bet. So we're gonna take this over to another familiar world. We have got Captain America, Spider-Man, and Batman.
Ooh, damn. Okay, so definitely gonna have to. Damn. The least bad out of all of them is pin them, and I love Spider-Man, so I'm gonna have to pin Spider-Man. I'm gonna have to get DQ. I'm gonna have to get DQ'd against Batman because I don't want to DQ myself against Captain America because America, fuck yeah. That's so I guess submit America. That doesn't sound any better. So but it's whatever we can do. We can go with that. Yeah. So pin Spider-Man, DQ against Batman, and submit Captain America.
Bet. And so the last one that we're going to take is to another universe that some are familiar with and others are not. We're going to take Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Luke Skywalker.
Oh, dang. What the hell? This is tough now. Yeah. You know what? I'll submit Obi-Wan in this one, and then I'll also say all the line from episode 3 where he's like, I have brought peace, freedom, and justice to my new empire. I'll say that while I'm submitting him. So I'll probably pin Qui-Gon because he got dealt a bad hand in episode 1, so I feel like he needs the least worst out of all this. And then Luke Skywalker, I'm gonna have to get DQ'd against because nobody beats Luke Skywalker, so might as well dip as soon as you can.
Bet. Well, listen, man, those are all the big questions, and thank you for coming on our show. But more importantly, we got to let our listeners and viewers know where they can find you.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. Victorious_BRG. Victorious, starting with a V for anybody that can't hear me clearly. Victorious_BRG. That's for Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that stuff. That's something we never talked about. I blew up on TikTok, but we can do that for another podcast for sure.
That. Well, there you have it. He gave you all his handles, and like every great part of a wrestling match, we got to take it home because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering 201, and I am your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you out this mountain called wrestling. And by now, like I said, every good Sherpa, like myself, has to have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. And he's sitting right next to me, the victorious BRG. And you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately following us on all of our social media platforms, which are right beneath us. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel, which is going on right now. You're listening to us on Spotify or maybe Apple iTunes or even Google Podcasts. Just subscribe to our channel there. Buy our merch. You guys see it's always there. It's hanging in the middle. And you're doing all that, sharing with your friends, commenting, or you're really just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're, waiting for the outro, and then you're just choosing another episode to listen to. Peace. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dot Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3count pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give us a subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3count podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3count podcast also has merchandise. Oh! At prowrestlingtees.com/the 3count pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.